I truthfully don't know how to feel about this because if you haven't heard, Netflix has, I believe, put in the bid and got it at this point. I'm not really sure how these things work. It seems like they put in the bid and then the bid was so good that they were able to get into the next stage of doing it. But it seems at this point, it's all but inked in a way that Netflix will acquire Warner Brothers, and the acquisition is a lot of things, moving parts in this. They have said to have bought it for $82.7 billion. Pocket change for most of us. That's a joke. There was this whole bidding war, of course, with Paramount, Netflix, a few things going on. But Netflix does expect to keep kind of the current schedule that they have for Warner Brothers in terms of movie releases for now. And, some things where it's like the streaming and the studios and everything are kind of separate companies rather than one thing as Warner Brothers. And the craziest thing is Netflix is going to somehow keep HBO Max going with this. So, obviously this is just for the short-term plans, it seems like, because they're going to be going more into this. But then over time, they're talking about evolving the whole theatrical release, saying that it's too long of a window to release these movies. They're out in theaters for too long, which obviously could be an issue for them considering they are Netflix and the bulk of it is all from home. So it seems like they're going to lower the kind of amount of time that a certain movie produced by Warner Brothers to be in the movie theater, making it, maybe it could be honestly an interesting thing. It probably hurts movie theaters, honestly, but maybe it doesn't. I'm not exactly sure. So it seems like at this point, what I'm reading here is that it is a definitive agreement under which Netflix will acquire the studio, including the film and TV divisions, HBO Max, all that. The U.S. government kind of step in for this because it seems like not too many people are too excited about this acquisition. We are talking about comics here and, all that. They have said that James Gunn and Peter Safran will maintain control of the DC. Of course, there are all these other IPs that they can explore now with Harry Potter, Sopranos, Game of Thrones. There's a Looney Tunes, for example. There's a lot of things that we could kind of go off of here. We could see, Netflix, obviously there's money to be made with certain IPs, especially the ones that I've named. So the SAG-AFTRA thing, president now, I think recent president Sean Astin has kind of stepped in because he's saying there are some serious questions and that has raised some concern for a lot of actors and actresses in the space because there is some issues going on. So what he has said about it, the potential Netflix Warner Brothers transaction is a consolidation that may serve the financial interests of shareholders of both companies, but which raises many serious questions about its impact on the future of the entertainment industry and especially the human creative talent whose livelihoods and careers depend on them. This $82 billion transaction reaffirms the true value of legacy media companies and the long-term economic prosperity they create due in large part to the contribution of the creative talent who are at the core of their success. A deal that is in the interest of SAG-AFTRA members and all other workers in the entertainment industry must result in more creation and more production, not less. It must do so in an environment of respect for the talent involved. Any decision about their position on this transaction will be made with the best interest of the SAG-AFTRA members as the standard and following a complete and thorough analysis of the details of the deal, which particular focus on jobs and production commitments. So they're not really seem to be taking a certain stance. I guess they kind of want to see where this goes in terms of, all the actors, actresses, editors, everybody involved with this. They want to see where it goes for everybody. I think this is honestly kind of a smart stance. I don't actually really know how to feel about Netflix taking over Warner Brothers. There are just so many moving parts. There's a lot of memes going on around there. You've probably seen them too. But U.S. senators, both parties, Republican and Democrat, says that it's becoming more of a monopoly thing, and this is actually not a good idea. It crushes competition, raises prices, kills the theater release, and hurts the workers. It seems like this is coming from Senator Elizabeth Warren, who said it's anti-monopoly nightmare. Senator Mike Lee said is the biggest antitrust red flag in years, and Senator Amy, and Roger Marshall are also urging strict scrutiny. The Trump administration is skeptical, and the deal still does need approval, which could push it a little further back. I don't know, man. It seems like this long-standing thing, especially with Paramount feeling, that they're jaded. I honestly didn't know Paramount was big enough to acquire Warner Brothers. I find it so interesting because from a fan standpoint, it's a double-edged sword here because is it good in some ways and bad in some ways? I believe so, yes, because they are right. It does, in a way, crush competition. Of course, there are these other studios, but the competition does get does get smaller, I feel like the same argument could be made if Paramount were to take it over, which is really where we're going here. So I don't want to say the term lesser of two evils, but, is Netflix to the point where, obviously that they become the control of the market share and what is released and, the theatrical things. Of course, the theaters will take a big hit from this because, of course, Warner Brothers is responsible for a lot of movies that go into theaters and go on streaming services. And if they're going to go the way of streaming services being the thing, which at this point don't seem to really pan out besides like, Netflix at that point, being the OG, are they going to kind of take control of all this? And again, they have great IPs, and now that they have all these resources and everything, they're may want to push out a certain amount of content where they will get their investment back, and then it will become just a cash cow. But me rambling on now, no competition is not good in terms of the consumer. Just to go in another way here, it's no good for the consumer because what you get is what you get, and that's it. There's no other person or company or anything that is threatening to offer something better. And if it becomes to a point where Netflix becomes too big, it will be harder for these smaller, I guess, IPs and companies and everything to take off because Netflix will just hold so much of the market share. Theatrical releases for a little bit. Streaming services, the prices will be raised, of course, because they have more to offer. So they're going to be making you pay for more. Quite interestingly enough, I don't know how that really works with HBO and Netflix. I'm assuming one day that HBO will just become Netflix. Another thing that I really want to get into more so, theaters, maybe being suffering here where a lot of people enjoy going to the theaters. Again, there's no competition because there still will be competition, but the less of a competition could be an issue. I'm not really seeing, if Paramount were the ones to buy it, there would still be a lesser of a competition. Again, this is me going back to maybe it's just a lesser of two evils. I do think this is really interesting. And as somebody who would love to see Game of Thrones be rebooted from season 7 or season 6 on and pretending like either 7 and 8 didn't happen or just 8 didn't happen, I think, for me, there's that hopeless thing of like, maybe they might do it. For DC fans, it's so weird because, there's the threatening of, it's funny I use the word threatening, of restoring the Snyderverse. People are going to be running with that narrative now, or will just James Gunn be out again and will DC be rebooted yet again? Of course, they said that earlier that that's not what's going to happen, but it does raise that concern because one day they might. It does. They raise both concerns from both ways. And of course, you have so many other things. People who are fans of the Looney Tunes, people who are fans of HBO things, The Sopranos, things like that. It does hurt the quality, I think, in some way. Maybe not in the beginning, maybe more towards, when we've kind of settled the dust that that Netflix does own Warner Brothers, because once they get comfortable, they're just going to be putting out whatever. And if you don't like it, tough shit. There's nowhere else to go besides Disney. But there's a lot of moving parts. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I have actually no idea. I really don't know. It seems like this was going to happen no matter what. It's not that there's this case where nobody's going to be bidding for it and Warner Brothers is not going to sell it. It seems like Warner Brothers is selling and they want the highest dollar. And of course, that's what's going to happen. I think maybe some genres will thrive while others will be hurt. It's kind of like similar to like Disney acquiring Star Wars. Some genres from Star Wars thrive and most don't, but it's quite interesting because then in the same breath Marvel thrives under Disney, or it did for a little bit. I don't know, man. I'm all over the place. It seems like the $82 billion thing that they're doing here, it does hurt the markets industry, and I don't know if they're just talking about this, whether it's maybe more so for the indie creators, maybe more so for people involved, the everybody behind the scenes, directors, actors, actresses, artists, editors, everything. Does this hurt them? Because if they can't get a job and Netflix is the only one offering, but you got to do these shitty hours for shitty pay, it might kill people's kind of creative. Maybe, with that point, with so many people maybe coming out of it, the less experience in that space, the shittier the quality of things are. There are pros and cons to this that need to be worked out. Of course, do we trust big markets and big companies and all this to do this? I don't know. But you let me know what you think of this below. This is an ongoing thing. Apparently, it's apparently not done. They still need to approve the deal, which, it's done, I think, at this point for them, but now all these other people have to step in to make sure it's good. And I think obviously they'll probably come to some conclusion where I personally think Netflix will acquire it. Obviously, there's a little bit of roadblocks. I'm sure they have to kind of put some type of guarantee or something. I don't know what they have to do to kind of make the deal a little juicier for consumers and people working in the space and the U.S. government, whatever governments, to kind of be like, all right, we can get behind this. I think that's probably what's going to happen with, only time will tell, man. Will we look back in this video and say, what a great idea this is, or what a terrible idea this is? I have no idea. But let me know what you think of this down below. Are you excited for this? Are you kind of weary of this? Do you hate this? I want to hear all your thoughts here. Let me know that down below.